This is how my team and I got 10th place in the GMTK Game Jam this year. Hello world, I'm Emmy, and this is my first time joining the GMTK Jam. I teamed up with a group of people who are mostly all from the Netherlands, and we got 10th place overall in the GMTK Game Jam with our game, Tick-Tock Doctor. You're crying, they're laughing. You're a doctor, yet you're the patient. The patients at the institution you work at had an uprising and are now seeking revenge for the things you did. They're gambling with your life. Other doctors left notes behind of their experiences, and they're not pretty. Will you survive, or will you perish, just like many of your doctor friends before you? Last year, the team did this jam and they made a really cool game called Leith. This is a beautiful game. I love the style and the limited color palette they used. It's a game about waking up in a house with no memory. For that game, they used all pre-made assets, so this year they wanted someone to help out to create original assets. That's where I come in. I was brought on the team to make 3D model assets, so we don't have to fully use pre-made ones. We did have to use some pre-made assets though, as this was a very short game jam. It was only 4 days long. So let's get into the jam. First, let's meet the team. Orenel, Levi, Tess, Livy, Dan, and me. We all jumped in a Discord call and waited for the theme to be announced. Okay, let's do a countdown to the theme. And the theme is... Wait, where's the theme? Oh, countdown is the theme. That's pretty much how our conversation went when the theme was revealed. Now that we know the theme, we started brainstorming ideas right away. From the start, we knew we wanted to make a horror game. We had ideas that involved clocks, Count Dracula, monsters that appear after a countdown, but after narrowing it down, we decided to go with my idea. I pitched the idea of doing a game inspired by the Saw movies. You wake up in a room to a voice over a speaker telling you that you have to complete a puzzle within the time limit or you die. Just like a Saw trap. Turns out that the other people on this team also love the Saw movies, so we all agreed on this plan. But my idea was vague and needed some help, so Levi got to work on the actual story. Orenel created the actual project in Godot. They set up the first-person player movement and the layout of the building. It's a bit empty right now, so we need to make some assets to fill it up. First, we need some spots where we can place items. So I started on the first 3D model, a shelf. I used Blender to make the models, and I kept them super simple because we decided to make an old PlayStation style horror game, which is awesome because I'm working on a project in that style, so I was able to learn a lot. I made low resolution textures to match the old style and put them on the model. Meanwhile, Orenel sent another update. They were adding textures to the walls of the rooms and added a window to the main room. And then they sent me how the shelves I made look in the game. They added a bunch of the shelves and created spawn points all over them so that the items can spawn in random points, and the game will be slightly different every time you play. Over on Levi's side, they were giving the game a story. You are a doctor, and you wake up in a facility. Turns out you have been running merciless experiments on patients, one of which has turned the tables and put you in his position. He injects you with a poison, and you have 5 minutes to figure out how to create the antidote, all while he's laughing at you and enjoying his revenge. I won't spoil it all here, but Levi did an amazing job giving the concept an actual story. Orenel added the countdown clock to the game, so the player knows how long they have before the poison sets in. And of course you actually have to have a countdown timer in a jam where the theme is countdown. And Dan was busy getting all the sounds together that we would need, which mostly consisted of metal and machine sounds. I went back in Blender and started creating more. We needed some stuff to fill the empty spaces in the rooms, so I created some cardboard boxes we could stack around. This was the easiest thing I have ever made because it was just a cube. And then I added some texture to it, and boom! We got some cardboard boxes in the game to help build the atmosphere. Dan sent over the first version of the music. And Livy was ready to start on the game's banner, so we needed a title for the game. And we decided to go with TikTok Doctor. I created a table for the main room. This is where the main gameplay will happen, the spot where you bring all the ingredients to create the antidote. Now that we have a spot to put it, Oronel made the machine that the ingredients will go in. She also made it so that when you add an ingredient, it fills it up. And now that the game was really becoming a game, Tess recorded the first couple of game tests. And Dan sent another update of the song, which is sounding a lot spookier now. In the game, you wake up in a room, so I went back into Blender and made a little bed. As I was modeling for this game, it was a little different because I've only ever used Unity, but my team was using Godot, so it was a little different, but it turned out to be better. In Unity, I have to import the models as FBX files, which have been a huge pain in the butt, but with Godot, I was able to import them as GLB files, and they just like seamlessly import into the game with all the textures perfectly on there, which has just not been my experience at all with Unity. And everything I made just went into the game so perfectly, so I was really happy about that. Livy made the official banner for TikTok Doctor that will be used as the cover image for the game. And now we need some dead bodies. I have never 3D modeled a human before, so this was challenging. I started by modeling just the head, and there will be a few bodies laying around in the game, so I made 3 different heads and 1 body and gave the body 2 different poses. First, I started by adding my boyfriend's face to the head, and I was laughing so hard while I did this because it started out sideways. I was moving it all around trying to get it positioned right on the face, and it just like appeared a bunch of times all over the head, and at some angles he looked like a little balloon head, and it was just so funny. I finally got it positioned and I had the first head ready. Then I did the second head, which is actually Levi's face, and then the third head, which belongs to Castifer. Then I started modeling the actual body. Luckily, we're sticking to the low poly style, so it doesn't have to be perfect. I just started with a cube and tried to turn it into a body, and it kind of worked. Then I added a lab coat the doctors wear, which also was kind of helpful because it kind of hid some of his body. And then the textures were pretty simple. I just added a skin tone that was similar enough to all 3 of the heads, a white lab coat and outfit, and then black shoes. And then in game, the team was able to mix and match the heads with the body poses. And this is how the dead body looked in game, which is a lot better than I expected. Once it was in the environment with the blood and everything, it was exactly how I wanted it to turn out. Everything went incredibly smooth for this jam. The team I worked with was so amazing, and they clearly had an established team with trustworthy and talented people, and I feel so lucky that I was able to work with them, and I would be so happy if I get to work on another project with them. The game turned out perfect, and we submitted it to the jam. We got so many great comments on our game, with a crazy amount of compliments for Levi's voice acting specifically. Because of all the love for the voice acting, and of course Dan's professional sound effects, we got 9th place in the audio category out of over 10,000 games. And later we found out that overall we got 10th place. 10th place out of over 10,000 games is so crazy, and to have gotten all the amazing feedback that we got, it was just so good. Our team really deserved it. Everyone did so amazing, and I'm so happy with how this jam turned out. Before we end today, I just have to mention some of the games I got to play in this jam because there were so many great ones. First, this game called Eat Fish Game by Sumpfree. You're in a pet store and you have to try and eat as many fish as you can before you get caught, and I just thought this was hilarious and it was super fun to play. This one is called Wilt by Size Gone Rogue. You play as a farmer and you can plant these different plants. The art style is so cool, and the gameplay was very addicting. And I also wanted to share this game, Countdown to Catastrophe by Wumpy. This was like a WarioWare style game, but it had this really cool animated style that I have not seen before, and I thought this was the perfect game to fit the countdown theme with these little timed mini games. And all of these games will be linked in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I highly recommend that you check out TikTok Doctor on itch.io and my amazing team members. Everything will be linked in the description below. And in my next couple of videos, I'll be updating you guys with a new devlog on my personal game that I'm working on and my experience in Juniper Dev's very serious game jam. I will see you next time. Bye!